Hey there, Melanie here. So glad you guys are here today. Just returned from my second trip to Kilimanjaro, and I wanted to share with you some of our tips and hints and suggestions if you're interested in going to Kilimanjaro. If you want to come on our next trip, you're certainly invited, and just send me a private message and we can work out the details. So my goal today is to share a climber's view of Kilimanjaro and also to motivate and inspire some of you to think about some of your own goals and to begin conquering, those dreams of whatever your mountain is, whatever it is. All right, so let's get started. The first time I went to Kilimanjaro, I was a solo traveler. It was scary at first to go on my own. That was never the intention. I wanted a group to go. I had invited people to go. I had a few people signed up to go, but at the last minute they backed out. And so I ended up going alone to Kilimanjaro. And it was great once I got there and my guide met me and everything was fine. But I was super, super nervous. You also get a lot of comments from people when you start to embark on some of these adventures that nobody else has really done. Some people will say, what do you want to do that for? Why do you have to go alone? How do you get ready? And so here are some of my training tips for Kilimanjaro, or I more like to call it how not to die on the mountain. First, you need a cold weather sleeping bag and cold weather hiking gear. So if you live someplace warm, you might not have that gear. For myself personally, I live in Houston, Texas area, and I don't have a lot of need for winter jackets and winter gloves and hats and things like that. And so I had to go and purchase or borrow some of that. You can rent at the mountain. You can rent some of the colder weather gear. You can even rent hiking poles, backpacks, all sorts of things. So if you don't want to purchase a good quality sleeping bag, then you can always rent. But I do recommend getting yourself a liner, like a sleeping bag liner, something to maybe bump up that warmth a little bit. Next thing you have to do is get yourself physically ready. You want to feel comfortable hiking, 8-mile days. Add some hills in there. You want to make sure you do some stair climbing or some steps, because you will be going up the mountain and there's some rocky places that you have to go for miles and miles sometimes. And then there's also the down part that you have to go. So you want to practice going up and practice going down. You can do that at a gym. You can simulate it. You can do stair climbers. You can do the treadmill at an incline, but nothing beats getting out there and practicing hiking. Get out there, get out in nature, just get those miles in with those hiking boots and your clothes and really just start practicing. You also want to learn to think positive. Nothing is more prevalent to stop you from either going on this trip or getting yourself up to the top of the mountain if you're thinking negative. And those negative thoughts, those are the things that will stop you from getting to the mountain and to summit and back down safely. So really start to think positive. Practice gratitude. That's one of the best known areas or ways or methods to get you to start thinking more positively more often. And so positive thinking is really going to get you to the top. The other thing is hire a local guide and listen to their advice. There's so many times, and I've heard so many stories out on hiking trails or out on the mountain, we told them to do this or we asked them to do this. And, some of the climbers or hikers, they think they know best and they're just not listening to their local guides and they get themselves into trouble. Good. So why do people climb mountains? I think it's about testing your will and your perseverance. And it's a challenge, right? The very first time I wanted to go to Kilimanjaro was, I had watched a television program when I was younger. I was in my 20s at the time, maybe even, an older teenager, right? And I had seen this public television program, and basically it said, anybody can do this. You can do this. And it just showed this middle-aged woman. She was hiking up Kilimanjaro and she had help. And they were, helping her get up the mountain just by guiding her. And she went through the different forest zones. And I just thought it was really interesting and intriguing. And so ever since then, since my 20s, I wanted to go. And over the years, a couple of times I tried to go, but I didn't really make 100% of the effort to go. And so finally, I was able to do it. So overthinking leads to negative thoughts. Like I said, the first time I went to Kilimanjaro, I was nervous and anxious. I was excited too, but I was also overthinking everything. And when you start to overthink things, you start to come up with excuses. Well, I don't have the time to do this. On my first trip, I had a senior in high school, and I could have easily said, I have a senior, I can't go. There's too many things going on. The other thing is money. It's not cheap to go to Kilimanjaro, and then you have to start buying all the gear. And so you just have to budget for it and plan, save a little bit of money every month, do what you need to do to get it done, right? Work on your health. When I first declared I was going to Kilimanjaro, I was 80 pounds heavier than what I am today. And so I used Kilimanjaro as my motivator to get my health together and get my act together. And so I started eating right. I started exercising regularly. I started getting out into the forest and getting some hiking done. And I just really loved being out there with nature. And I think that's what really motivated me to keep going. You got to get rid of those excuses. People's comments will also stop you or could stop you. Those naysayers, though, what do you want to do that for? I think people are just well-meaning and they don't realize the impact that they might have by saying something. And so you just have to push through that and stick to what your plan is. And then, of course, the negative thoughts. Stay positive. You can do it. Luckily, at the time, I was in a really good coaching program when I was getting ready for that very first trip. And through coaching, I was able to be persistent, persevere through a lot of those questions and comments and just my own thoughts and work through the excuses of time or money just definitely persevered through what was going on in my life and other people's lives around me. And I just had to stick to my goals. So if you ever have an opportunity to work through or be involved in a coaching program, I highly encourage it. I've been in a few coaching programs now, and I'm also a coach as well. And if you have an opportunity, definitely do it. Self-doubt. The very first time I went to Kilimanjaro, I was sitting at the airport. My husband had just dropped me off. I was super nervous. Dan basically just kicked me out of the car and said, "You're going to do great. Whatever happens, you're just going to deal with it." And so this is a poem I wrote. I'm going to read it to you. While I'm reading this poem, I want you to think about your own things and what are some of the things that stop you from doing the things that you want to do. It's titled Self-Doubt. Going places, traveling, sightseeing. Why so nervous? Self-doubt. Negative thoughts. What are you doing that for? Why? Are you crazy? Why do you have to go alone? Double check facts. Did I do everything? What will happen if I miss something? Fear, unknown, going, moving forward, one step at a time. For whatever reason, I had this drive to get to Kilimanjaro, and it nagged at me for years and years and years. And finally, I was able to go. And I was super excited when I got to Kilimanjaro. I had hired a local guide. His name is Ellie, and he met me at the airport. He was my coach at Kilimanjaro, my guide, right? And, I listened to his advice, followed his footsteps as we were going up the mountain, and he was fabulous and certainly a great guide for the mountain. And when I arrived at Kilimanjaro, they actually left my bags in Kenya because we had a stop in Kenya. And so I arrived at Kilimanjaro with no backpack and no hiking boots. So it took some hard work on Ellie's part and me getting on the phone and crying to my husband saying, what am I going to do? And he says, you're going to figure it out. It's going to work out however it's going to work out. And it did. I got my bags, and the morning of the climb, they showed up. We met them. We met the bag drop-off people, like the airport people. They met us at a junction, and I had 5 minutes with my bag. I was able to grab my backpack and my hiking boots and, some socks and underwear and a few other things, and threw it in my bag and went up the mountain. So it worked out. It was good. And so here we are at the top of Kilimanjaro. We made it, 41 feet, and super hard climb. Make sure you're prepared, definitely. And then now, this most recent trip, there was a group of 7 of us, and we went to Kilimanjaro. And our group of hikers were aged 41 to 65, 6 women, and my husband Dan was there. And Dan was amazing. He did our video work. And so you'll see a few snippets of the video, and I have a full-length version of it as well. We also had 3 guides, 20 porters, and 2 cooks. So Kilimanjaro is a hiking mountain, and all supplies are carried in. This is us the first day at forest level, just starting our climb. We saw colobus monkeys, or black and white monkeys as they're also called, and they were there overnight. On our first night, we saw them in the trees. Super exciting to see them. Just to mention a few of the other animals that we saw. So as we were driving to the gate, we were able to see some giraffes, some ostriches, and some wildebeest. There was one deer or a goat. It looked kind of like a deer, but they called it a goat. So not sure what species it was. We had lots of time for taking pictures, and we hiked 5 to 7 miles a day. Lots of time for selfies, and we also had group pictures. The meal tent was always a welcome sight at the end of the day. We were usually greeted with popcorn and cookies, always with hot beverages, tea, coffee. It was nice to just go and sit down and relax and just enjoy each other's company. We always got excited when we could check in with family. There were certain areas on the mountain. You would watch where the porters were going, and if they were gathering in a certain area, they were checking their phones. And that was an indicator. It was like, oh, let's go check our phones. So we were able to check in with family. So that was nice. But the hardest work is done by the porters. They carry in the water. They carry in the food. Let me see if I can move my head. No, can't move my head. Okay. The porters carry in the water jugs, the food, the cook tents, the chairs, the pots, just everything that you can think of that has to be carried in, they carry in. Now, this lady here, this is one of the porters. The majority of the porters are men. There are a few female porters, and we were always excited to see a female porter. So. The porters set up camp every day. This is one of our camps. This little video will show you just some sunrise and us getting ready at camp. Just have a look at, everyone's just gathering and getting their stuff together.
With the soup, the soup was enough for me.
I thought the soup was dinner.
Yeah, the soup was enough for
I would have
me.
been fine with the soup. Yeah, like, okay, it's time for bed.
I would only had one of the little
Yeah, this is Dan. He said he's very hungry.
The hungriest.
I hope your heart rate goes way up.
He said he wants part of my portion.
No.
I'm gonna be able to
How do you
sit
say
on the
little
table.
in Swahili? How do you say little?
That's good. Oh, there's lots. Oh, that is good.
Which, the salad?
The salad. That was really good.
That looks good to me. Small.
Little
really
bit. Yeah, wait.
Let's. Oh no, my God!
Yeah, good.
I need to go and serve myself because they're going to fill out my.
Ellie wants everyone to eat a bunch.
I'm going to eat.
I won't be able to walk to my tent.
I know. You roll me there.
That's good. That's good. Good. Yep.
Okay, I want like this, like for a baby.
She wants a lot.
Shut up.
She wants the rest of it.
I could just use my French right now, so be careful. No, let's see.
Yeah,
Less than that.
More.
No. Okay, that's it.
Remember, you have
Very little. That's it. Perfect.
There's
Oh, I'm
cucumber.
beginning to really like you.
That's
Now, very little on there. Half of the half. Yes. Okay. And the salad. Very good.
beautiful.
Oh, that's perfect.
Salad is good.
Sounds very good.
Salad is Oh, wow. Look at it. It's all cut up. Fancy.
Hot sauce, tomato sauce.
That is a picante sauce.
And the porters have rights. So the porters pack everything up and they carry it. And so you can imagine many years ago, if there wasn't a regulation or a stipulation as to how much someone is legally required or legally the max amount that they're legally allowed to carry. If there's no rules, then people would just keep on giving them more and more and more stuff. And so they've set maximum carry limits. And so the rules are good. And they also have to have proper sleeping accommodations. There's many years ago where they would have to just, sleep with a bed sheet or sleep, in a cave, and it was damp and cold and it wasn't good conditions. But you can see in this image, we have a sleeping mat. We have, the water jugs on top. We have loaves of bread. You'd even see cartons of eggs on people's heads as they're going up. So a typical porter's day would be, they would wake us up. We would have our waiter. He would come and wake us up, bring us water for washing and some tea or coffee. And then we would get ready and we would leave camp. And then the porters would pack everything up. They would pass us on the trail, set up camp, and then 4 or 5 porters would come back and greet us on the trail and help us carry with our backpacks and just, keep us company. First arrived, we went and we visited. We went and visited the local market. And one of the comments that they said was, "We may be poor, but we have food. We're not starving." And just look at that produce. Like, it's amazing. There's carrots, there's grapes, there's bananas, there's potatoes. And while the porters were doing the hard work, we were hiking and enjoying the scenery and working hard. Singing and helping keeping us entertained was part of a porter's day as well. This is us going up to Lava Tower and just listen to the song. So we all had our own challenges to deal with, either getting to the mountain or while we're on the mountain. And so my friend Sarah, she was looking for the Hilton on the first day. She had never slept in a tent before. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is claustrophobic. I'm just going to have to push through. This lady here, Carmen, she had a cough, and our guide Ellie was concerned about the cough, worried about possibly some fluid buildup in her lungs. But Ellie checked her out, And, you know, we always had a good health check every night. And so she was given the go ahead to keep on going. And then Texas, she had some knee injury to deal with. And she also had asthma and COPD. And so she had some, you know, definitely some challenges going to do this mountain, but she persevered and did the best she could. Myself personally, I had my own issues. I think it was the second night. I was sick to my stomach. I was throwing up. I think I picked up maybe a little bug at the airport or something. I'm not sure what it was. Maybe ate something that wasn't quite right, maybe on the airplane. But the second night I was throwing up. And then the next morning, you know, you still have to get up and hike and keep on going. And, you know, just by looking at my socks tucked into my pant leg there, I don't think I should have been allowed to dress myself that day. But I persevered and just had to push through. My back was having some back spasms during the day while I was hiking. And it wasn't a fun day of hiking, but it was still pretty. I still enjoyed it. I did end up tripping on a rock that same day, and I had a little boo-boo on my knee. And so Kristen, our first aid person, was you know, she took care of it for me, so it didn't get any worse. You want to take care of it before it gets any worse, definitely. This image is, these are called the Wobbles. This is something that anyone from the clinic that I work at, if they are watching this, this is a move that everybody learns when they come to our clinic. It's called the Wobbles, and it's actually an exercise to help warm up your spine or warm up your back and create circulation, fluid, and blood flow. Lots of great hiking. You can see off in the distance there, kind of the trail going in between the rocks, and then you just got to keep on going. So you got to go down and you got to go through these different valleys and over and through. So really great hiking trail. So summit day, let's start talking about summit. Summit is the hardest hike of all, just because it's long and you're at elevation. So you're starting at around, you know, 14,000 feet, 15,000 feet, and you're going up to 19,000 feet. So from this camp, this is called Barranco. This is probably my favorite camp. The scenery is just spectacular and beautiful. And you start from here and you're going to be hiking all day. And then you're going to rest at base camp. And then at midnight, you're going to get up and start hiking towards the summit. And then you're going to hike all night, hopefully get there by sunrise. And then after sunrise and you take your pictures, then you start coming back down to base camp. And then you get to rest for a little bit. And then you got to go down a little bit further yet to get to the next camp, which is at forest level. So where it's lush and green and all that. So it's called Summit Day, but it's really Summit Day, Summit Night, and then Summit Day again. And it's all wrapped into kind of one. So the very first thing that you encounter is called the wall. And here's a little video of what the wall looks like. Then we start summit attempt we start at around 11:30 at night or so, and we follow our headlamps for 6 hours. And so our guide helps us get ready. And you're so excited. You've been hiking for like 6 hours, following one foot in front of the other, and you're coming over to this ridge, and you kind of forget you got to get to Stella Point first, and you think you're getting to summit, and you keep on getting encouraged, and people are saying you're almost there, not too much further yet. I know it's hard work, but you can do it. And so you get over this ridge, and it's like, oh, that's not summit, that's Stella Point. And so it's still further yet. And it's almost like this false summit, but you keep on going one foot in front of the other. And so just to give you a little bit of perspective, Stella Point to summit is only 0.6 of a mile, but it took us an hour and a half to do it. And it's really pulley, which is slow. But every 4 or 5 steps, you have to take a rest. And then a few more steps, and you have to take a rest. And, it's super tough. It's a tough hike, but you can do it. That's what the terrain looks like the last mile, or pardon me, the last even half mile to get to Stella Point, or after Stella Point to summit. And you can see way off in the distance there, over on the horizon to the right of the snow at the end of the rocks is summit. And so 5 of us made it to summit. And I really do encourage people to think about what their mountain is and what their goals. Once you reach summit, you get to start to go down, and you look around at the different scenery because you're starting to get a little more oxygen back into your body. There's glaciers, and then there's, the route down is a little bit different than the route up. Some of it's the same, but you do get to take this this more lava, crushed gravel type route going down. And so it's a little bit easier for a part of it, but it's still really hard because you've been hiking for so long, and now you're trying to get down to base camp. Once you get down and have a little rest at base camp, then the anger starts. People are grumpy. They don't want to get up. They're tired. They're oxygen deprived. They're probably really hungry, but don't really feel like eating. And so you could almost call it kind of a mountain sickness, but the only cure is to go down. And if you have the strength to argue, then you have the strength to go. But some of us wanted a helicopter or a Jeep ride down. But like I said, if you have the strength to argue, then you're going down on your own 2 feet. As we were going down, it started to get dark because, it just took time. And we don't normally show up at camp at night, but at this time we did. And it was raining. I think the rain slowed us down. It made us more cautious of our footsteps. And then we were all really grumpy. And we were really hoping for the porters to arrive so that they could take our bags from us, but we were still a long ways away. So I created another poem that summarized Kilimanjaro summit, and I want to read it to you. Kilimanjaro summit. Excited, ready, anticipation, prepared, nervous. Did I train enough? Take your time. Pulley. Grateful, honored, happy to be here. Darkness, headlamps, one step at a time. Sunrise, summit, made it. Now we go down. Tired, pushing through. Are we there yet? I see camp. Still further. Porters help. Happy to see them. Made it to base camp. Rest, hydrate, refuel. Got to get moving again. Few more miles. Raining, darkness, complaining, pushing through, wishing to see the porters soon. Made it. Exhausted. Sleep. Celebrate tomorrow.
Hey, girls.
So if you have any questions, just send me an email or a text message on Messenger, and I'm happy to help answer any questions. And thanks again. Bye, guys.